You can spin the Edmonton Oilers' loss to the Florida Panthers in a couple different ways, okay? You can tell me that the forwards didn't show up. You can tell me that the defense didn't show up. You can tell me the goaltending didn't show up. You can tell me the depth didn't show up. You can tell me that the big guns and Connor and Leon did not show up. But in that same breath, you have to mention that the Florida Panthers did that to the Edmonton Oilers. They got them off their game. They did that with every team they faced in the postseason. It's not just like the Edmonton Oilers were the only team they did it to. They made the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Carolina Hurricanes hate themselves for the way that they played. It's just the way that it is. But that's not the number one reason the Edmonton Oilers lost, in my opinion. They simply got out-coached, okay? Kris Knoblauch got out-coached by Paul Maurice the whole series. That's what we're going to talk about in today's video, okay? Paul Maurice simply outcoached Kris Knoblauch. I'm Justin Arnberg, and welcome back to another video here on Justin Sports. I hope you like what you see, because if you do, be sure to leave a like, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to leave a comment, because I greatly appreciate it. And if you like the content that you see, I'm sure you're going to like what you see on TikTok, X, and Instagram, because listen, if you like what you see here, you're going to love what you see over there. It's just a matter of time before you find it anyway, in my personal opinion. But let's get into talking about why I think Kris Knoblauch simply got outcoached against Paul Maurice. Listen, we know in the playoffs how important last change is at home and using that to your advantage. And yes, Kris Knoblauch probably could have done a little bit of a better job with that, in my opinion, but that's not the biggest reason I think that they lost. The reasons I think that they lost is simply going. I hate to say this, but I don't like going to Pickard in Game 5. I think Stuart Skinner was the guy the all along. Pickard was obviously just thrown in net because he simply won Game 4. He held on for his life to win Game 4. But in Game 5, it simply was not enough, okay? Then, it's not just that, okay? You have Kris Knoblauch, who made multiple mistakes in the series. First, moving Evander Kane down to the fourth line and taking him off Leon Draisaitl's line. Not only did it hurt Draisaitl, but it hurt Evander Kane, who effectively took himself out of the series with more penalties. Maybe if he was on the second line and actually had more playing time, he would have felt more engaged in the game and felt like he could contribute. Now, maybe Kris Knoblauch had another reason, but when you make multiple lineup decisions, including taking Kapanen out of the lineup, I think that also affected how the Edmonton Oilers played. Like, Arvidsson obviously was not getting the job done. Why was Kapanen brought out of the lineup? It just did not make any sense. It felt like Kris Knoblauch, every single time he was trying to make a move, it was a panic move to try and do something to, counteract what Paul Maurice was doing for Florida. When simply, sometimes he didn't have to do that. And the biggest one of all, in my personal opinion, was understanding how to manage his players' ice time. In Game 5, it was the perfect example, okay? In Game 6, I'm not going to look at it because that's a do-or-die game. You're obviously going to ride the big guns. But in Game 5, when the series is tied, you have Connor McDavid and you have Leon Draisaitl taking longer shifts. They take over a minute shifts, right? On the other side of the ice, you have guys like Brad Marchand taking 40-second shifts, okay? Now, I'm not saying that Connor McDavid can't play a minute, but at the end of the game, when you have guys taking shorter shifts, they're going to be fresher for the end of the game. There was a point where McDavid was on for it felt like 2.5 minutes. And it just felt like Kris Knoblauch didn't understand. We got to conserve some energy for him, okay? It felt like he made mistake after mistake after mistake, just trying to counteract what Paul Maurice was doing on the other side, and it simply was not the right decisions. He was overthinking it, in my opinion. He just got into his own head and started thinking he had to make changes because it wasn't going the way that it was supposed to be going, even though they were even 2-2 in the series going back to Edmonton for Game 5. So, at the end of the day, I just think that Kris Knoblauch got outcoached by Paul Maurice in the series. Everything that Paul Maurice did in order to stop what they wanted, which was slowing down Connor McDavid, was effective. it simply got to him. Like, they threw everything at him. It wasn't just Barkov. It was throwing the second line of Bennett, throwing the third line of Lundell at them. So then when, the time came, they could actually use their lines to score. Like, it just, you wear down the other team, it creates chances for you offensively. The defense looked terrible in that series for Edmonton. Partly because of the Troy Stecher situation, where you only played him for 4 minutes, I think, of game 4, sorry. Then you have only 5 defensemen. It just didn't make sense, okay? Just Kris Knoblauch made some decisions in this series that I think he's going to look back at and regret as time goes on. That's just what does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope we see you later. Have a good day.